They say comedy often unveils the truth, but what if the truth behind the laughter is darker than we dare to imagine? A comedian celebrated for blending humor with controversy takes center stage, using his opening monologue to address a range of provocative topics. However, it's his sharp remarks about Sean Diddy Combs that leave the audience speechless and the internet in a frenzy. Diddy, the mastermind behind countless chart-topping hits, is no stranger to scandal. But this time, the stakes have skyrocketed. Racketeering, sex trafficking, and a secretive lifestyle now laid bare in the unforgiving glare of a federal courtroom. And Dave Chappelle? He masterfully turns it all into comedic genius while dropping cryptic clues about an even darker narrative lurking beneath the surface.
Well, it is another day, and it is another Diddy lawsuit. Yep, this time from a man who says he was the former executive assistant of the disgraced rapper and music producer, and he is accusing Diddy of essentially sexual coercion, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. And it all stems, he says, from what happened at these lavish fueled nights called Wild King Nights. So this 32-page lawsuit, which was reviewed by multiple outlets, including Rolling Stone, was apparently filed in Los Angeles by a man named Philip Hines, who says he worked for Diddy from 2019 to 2021. So actually more recent than some other suits we've seen against Sean Combs that have been in the early 2000s or even the 90s. But according to reporting in the suit, Hines is alleging a few different things here. Now, before we even get into it, and there is a lot to get into, you might be wondering, what the heck does that name mean? What are we talking about when we said Wild King Nights? Well, part of this lawsuit alleges that Hines had to prove his loyalty to Sean Combs, who was dubbed the King, by performing sex acts for him, hence the name Wild King Nights. The suit even reportedly says that Hines was treated, quote, like an animal playing fetch in order to prove his loyalty. And by the way, that is just one of the many disturbing details in this lawsuit. So to help me break it down, I want to bring on friend of the show, defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, who has been our go-to as we've been covering the Sean Combs saga. Mauricio, so good to see you. Thanks so much. Happy holidays. Before we get into the
as well.
Yeah, thank you. Before we get into the specifics here, you know, I feel like we're almost becoming numb to the lawsuit after the lawsuit after the lawsuit. And do all of the allegations against Combs so far that we've seen make the claims here, these new claims, do you think it makes it more or less true? In other words, does the fact that a lawsuit comes out in late 2024, as opposed to maybe at the beginning of the year or right after he was arrested, but, you know, on the heels of all the allegations so far, how should we all be thinking about yet another lawsuit against Sean Combs?
I think little by little, it's chipping away at whatever he's got left as far as reputation-wise. I mean, I think when I read it, the biggest key factor for me is that we're talking about somebody that was under his employ, if that allegation is true.
Chappelle kicks off with his signature flair, humorously dissecting the week's headlines, from the raging wildfires in Los Angeles to Donald Trump's peculiar remarks at an Ohio rally. But the tone shifts dramatically as he delves into a story that's been dominating the news for months. The legal troubles of hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. This isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's a web of shocking allegations, including sex trafficking, coercion, and lavish parties that prosecutors have labeled as wild freak-offs. With a mix of wit and gravity, Chappelle brings this complex and controversial tale into the spotlight.
So the indictment continues, quote, freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and use. That is something. And the government would allege that these freak-offs, they have been happening since 2009. That those consisted of GH. Now, in terms of the defense of consent, the defense could say, well, these people knowingly and voluntarily took. But if it's true that Combs kept videos that these participants didn't know about, that could be problematic for him, especially since we learned the government may have the goods to back all of this up. In their bail letter to the judge, they write, quote, "The evidence against the defendant, which would be made public at trial, includes substantial evidence that is highly sensitive and has the potential to significantly and negatively impact the defendant's reputation. For example, dozens of video recordings created by the defendant of freak-offs with victims." I mean, we wondered what was collected by federal authorities after they raided Combs' homes in LA and Miami back in March.
The accusations against Diddy are both extensive and deeply troubling. Federal prosecutors claim that for years, Combs masterminded a series of extravagant parties where attendees were allegedly coerced and pushed into compromising and unethical situations.
Diddy and the staggering amount of new sexual civil claims being filed against him. There are now more than 20. And a warning, many of the details are disturbing.
Anything I do is through God.
A personal trainer claims that in 2022, at an after party on the night of the BET Awards, Diddy spiked his drink, sexually assaulted him, and then later, he claims that his body was passed around like a party favor for sexual enjoyment.
I love y'all. Peace.
In another filing, a woman claims Diddy raped her after she met him at a party attended by Mary J. Blige, Lil' Kim, and Nicki Minaj in Las Vegas. To be clear, the stars are not accused of any wrongdoing. The alleged victim claims she woke up groggy and sore and, quote, was horrified to realize that she was raped by Combs. Diddy has denied all the allegations.
We're seeing the same pattern of sexual violence. The victim meets Diddy at a party, they're given a drink, and that drink is allegedly. The next thing they know, they wake up with a vague memory of being sexually assaulted.
These so-called freak-offs reportedly lured celebrities, influencers, and unsuspecting newcomers into Hollywood's glittering yet shadowy underworld. The allegations paint a chilling picture. Extravagant mansions filled with opulence, rooms stocked with illicit substances, and power dynamics so skewed they expose the darker underbelly of an entertainment industry built on exploitation.
These people are represented by a brand. Whether it's something about the music, clothing, movies, they're not gonna come out and speak on nothing that has anything to do with them, and they praying that they not on the tape doing crazy stuff, being oiled up in the whole 9 yards. They praying. So until the feds say, "Hey, yo, listen here. We got you on, hey buddy, we got you on this tape," and girl looked like she was pretty young. We're not gonna show it, but we need you to come and testify against Brother Love, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs. That's when they're gonna start talking, and they're not gonna be talking in his favor. When the feds come to them and show them what they got on tape, because if he had 250 tapes all over, 250 cameras all over the house, somebody got caught stealing a cookie out the cookie jar. It could be your favorite pastor. It could be your favorite politician. But they didn't think they was being watched. And Brother Love was watching.
For Chappelle, the rumors hit close to home. At least socially, friends had approached him questioning why he, a prominent figure in Hollywood, wasn't at these infamous parties. His response, a self-deprecating joke that concealed a deeper sense of unease. "My friends" roars. But the implication hangs heavy. Chappelle's humor reveals a glaring truth about Hollywood's darker underbelly, the layers of secrecy, the selective invitations, and the haunting realization that exclusion in this context might be a blessing.
Joining me now is broadcaster and journalist Diddy Dunleavy. Diddy, let's start with video footage of the birthday party of Sean Diddy Combs, one that he organised for Meek Mill back in 2014. This video has resurfaced with the property manager of the location, the Parisian Palace in Las Vegas, claiming that there were broken bottles of alcohol, used condoms, blood on the bedding, powder, razor blades by the hundreds, lubricant on the dresses and marble floors, panties, bras, and even 2 iPhones in the bushes behind the bowling alley. Goodness me, sounds like quite the party. Do you think we're going to see footage of these parties, particularly the freak-out parties where all the grotesque goings-on were happening? And given the fact that we are hearing he taped everything, he had video cameras with him at all times.
Well, that's where I've got a question mark as to whether he filmed this or whether the property manager has bobbed up after. This is 10 years ago, this party. There's something concerning me a bit about this, and we get it by now. We've heard that Diddy has wild parties, but he's in jail. He's awaiting trial in May next year on some pretty serious charges, sex trafficking, etc.
Could be in jail for the rest of his life if convicted.
Exactly. So while this is a salacious story, I'm concerned that the more of this sort of story that bobs up, it's playing into the hands of the defence. They're going to, at some point, be able to argue that he's not going to get a fair trial. But where will they get a jury of people who haven't heard all of these claims? And I'm also just vaguely sceptical about this property manager who says that he found over the house, but he thought it was icing sugar.